For years, ordinary crypto developers and Silicon Valley startups looked down on Ripple and the XRP ledger. They called it too corporate, too centralized, or they just plain didn't get it. But according to a massive new update shared by a popular market analyst, digital asset investor, the behind the scenes reality has completely flipped. According to the title of our news right here, an expert claims this is why banks will use XRP. Digital asset investor recently broke down why the builder community is suddenly singing a completely different tone. If you look at what went down on the recent XRP Las Vegas event and listen to the whispers coming from industry insiders, developers who used to criticize the ledger are now scrambling to build on it. So the question is why? It's because they are finally waking up to what is about to land on the XRP ledger. The reality is that ordinary crypto startups cannot simply replicate that Ripple has built over the last decade. You can copy code overnight, but you cannot copy deep institutional relationships, global central bank connections, and a decade of regulatory battle scars. XRP was fundamentally designed from day one to do completely different job than 99% of other digital assets. It was not built for cartoon pictures or speculative meme tokens. It was built to move the world's wealth. Alright, our very first question right here is that can XRP surpass everyone's market cap expectations? During his breakdown, digital asset investor highlighted some incredibly powerful comments from Dom Kwok, the co-founder of ECA. Right? Let's just highlight this part. Kwok brought up a point that blows the mind of traditional finance guys, arguing that XRP could eventually surpass all major expectations over the next several years. In my own personal opinion, people in traditional finance are obsessed with market cap. They look at the current supply of XRP, multiply it by a potential price like $10, $50, or $100 and says that's impossible because the market cap would be bigger than the GDP of the United States. Right? But, as Dom Kwok rightly pointed out, traditional market capitalization metrics are completely irrelevant when it comes to a global utility asset. Market cap is a metric designed for stocks and public companies, not for global liquidity bridges. When you look at XRP's long-term potential, you have to compare it to the rise of Bitcoin. Right? Bitcoin was criticized for years. People said it had no utility. It was too slow and it was just used for dark web transactions. Yet, it rose to become a trillion-dollar asset class purely based on the narrative of being digital gold. XRP does not just have a narrative. It has a literal hands-on job to do in the global banking sector. Once the floodgates open, the concept of a traditional market cap goes out the window. Alright, so why is the raw liquidity more important to banks than just speed? This brings us to the core argument of why banks will ultimately rely on XRP. Digital asset investor pointed to an incredibly knowledgeable institution analysis from an account known as Charson. Right? Let's just highlight this part. Charson. Right? Charson notes that when we talk about cross-border payments, the average retail investor thinks about speed. They think, well, this blockchain takes 3 seconds and that blockchain takes 2 seconds, so that blockchain is better. In my own personal opinion, banks do not care about 1 second difference in speed. What they care about is liquidity. Banks settle massive, eye-watering amounts of value every single day. We are talking about billions of dollars per transactions. If a tier 1 bank tries to move $5 billion across a network that lacks deep liquidity, they encounter massive slippage. The price shifts mid-transaction, and they lose millions of dollars in a split second. XRP is uniquely positioned as an enterprise-scale institutional bridge asset. Ripple payments and what used to be known as on-demand liquidity were built specifically to replace the ancient, slow, and horribly inefficient Nostro-Vostro banking framework. Right now, trillions of dollars are sitting completely dead in foreign bank accounts all over the globe just to make sure cross-border trades can clear. XRP solves this liquidity trap by allowing banks to settle instantly without holding pre-funded balances anywhere. Alright? So, why are stablecoins alone incapable of solving the banking problem? Let's highlight this part. Right? A lot of critics lately have been saying, hey, now that we have stablecoins like RLUSD and various fiat-backed tokens, why do banks even need XRP? Why not just use a digital dollar? Right? Digital asset investor here tackled this question head on, and his explanation is flawless. In my own personal opinion, stablecoins are great for retail and for small-scale corporate payments, but they are completely inadequate for the global banking sector's volume. Think about math. If you have a stablecoin with a total circulating supply of $1 billion or even $10 billion, how can that token independently support a global financial system that clears trillions of dollars a day? It physically cannot. The velocity required would break the system, or the slippage would be catastrophic. You cannot process enterprise scale volume without a highly liquid floating price bridge asset like XRP. Stablecoins will absolutely run on the XRP ledger, and they will provide amazing on-chain utility, but they act as the cargo while XRP acts as the highway. You need the highway to move the cargo. Without XRP providing the underlying liquidity and bridging the gaps between different fiat currencies, stablecoins are just digital versions of the same fragmented system we already have. Right? So, did Brad Garlinghouse just confirm the ultimate fate of the XRPL? To back up these points, digital asset investor brought up the recent speech by Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse at XRP Las Vegas. Garlinghouse reminded the community of a simple fact, and it's where XRP was created to solve a specific trillion-dollar friction point in payments. It offers lightning-fast settlement times, near zero transaction cost, and unparalleled scalability. In my own personal opinion, Garlinghouse isn't speaking as a hype man anymore. He's speaking as a tech executive whose network has already successfully processed billions of transactions without a single second of downtime. The sheer longevity of the XRP ledger and the absolute resilience of its community are major green flags for institutional players. Banks do not risk their reputations on brand new, untested blockchains that halt every time they get heavy traffic. They choose battle-tested infrastructure. So, we are watching crypto evolve right before our eyes from a speculative casino into actual foundational financial infrastructure. For years, venture capital groups and prominent Silicon Valley figures unfairly targeted XRP and Ripple. They spent years trying to suppress it while backing their own insider projects with sketchy token distributions and zero real-world utility. But the truth is finally coming to light as the market shifts toward true utility. Right. So, is there an 80% chance the Clarity Act passes with bipartisan support? So finally, let's talk about the regulatory finish line. Digital asset investors shared a highly optimistic data point from Grayscale Research, stating that there is currently an estimated 80% probability that the US Clarity Act will pass with strong bipartisan support. In my own opinion, an 80% chance from an institution like Grayscale is as close to a sure thing as you get in Washington. The political tide has completely turned. Lawmakers are realizing that if they don't provide clear rules for digital assets, the United States will lose the financial tech race to Europe and the Middle East. The Clarity Act is the key that unlocks institutional accumulation. Digital asset investor closed out his thoughts by reaffirming his long-term strategy, stating that he continues to aggressively accumulate XRP during any market downturn. I completely agree with his mindset. When you understand the underlying structural reality of global finance, short-term price drops aren't scary. They are a discount. Institutional adoption and legal clarity are no longer a matter of if. They are a matter of when. So, we need to stay patient, keep our eyes on the utility, and keep those hands diamond. And this finally ends our video. Thank you very much for watching, and see you on the next one, or you might as well check the recommended videos right here.